Hey, Mike. Thanks for joining me. I appreciate your time. We have Mike Egan here with us today. Mike is a U.S. Marine, which is it's a very timely thing today. First, I want to say happy birthday to the U.S. Navy, to happy 250th birthday to the U.S. Navy. I know, Mike, you loved riding on our Navy ships, being a U.S. Marine, always calling us the Uber drivers of the militaries. This is where I'm going to inlay some anchors away for you. So just imagine you're hearing anchors away and just celebrating the Navy's birthday today.
I love it. Yeah. I mean, I can hear it now. It's like nails on a chalkboard. No, I'm just kidding. Y'all are my favorite Uber drivers, though. 5 stars every time.
There we go. That's all I need. What's just so we set the status? What's your acronym for the Army? What was that again?
Well, Army stands for Aren't Ready for Marines Yet.
Yeah, there we go. I don't think we have anything for the Air Force or the Space Force yet.
Yeah, that's okay. We love them, but they don't need an acronym.
Yeah. Well, Mike, obviously a U.S. Marine, medically retired from a combat injury in Afghanistan. What year was that?
That was in May 2012.
2012.
Well, I was injured May 2012, and I medically retired January 2014.
2014. And from that injury, from that combat injury, you're medically retired, bilateral, above the knee amputee, and you also have some issues and loss of function in your hands and forearms. Can you describe that? Because I think most people that know you or will see you on Instagram and follow you will obviously see that you had your legs amputated. That's obvious. But I think what people don't know is they don't know about the condition and the dysfunction you have in your upper extremities too. So really, you're a multi-limb athlete when you're competing and doing these things as well.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, most obvious injuries, obviously, you can see my legs are amputated, right? And that's what everyone focuses on. And my upper extremity, disabilities that I deal with are not as visible. When people see it, they're like, I just thought you had like really strong forearms or something. They're like, you have freakish forearms. And I'm like, no, I'm actually missing like part of my forearm. It's hard to get like the perfect angle, but there's a scar that goes all the way down here, down to my elbow. Lost a pretty good percentage of my left forearm. I had a ulnar. I think it's ulna nerve fracture. I always mispronounce it. So I have no feeling on this side of my forearm, like this over. No feeling in these three fingers. They're very weak. I can move them, but I have no feeling on this side of my hand and my forearm. So I do have full function of, my thumb, my index finger, but everything else is gone and functionality is very limited. So when I'm doing these crazy barbell movements or deadlifts, like all my grip is in these two fingers, and these are just kind of there for emotional support. So,
Yeah. I definitely
yeah.
want to come back to that and how that affects your pushing in your wheelchair. Actually, that's relevant. But how do you describe yourself to people that you get introduced to, and you have to give speeches, or you're first introduced to a group of people or whatever? How do you introduce yourself? I mean, you're a career-long Marine, medically retired. You now coach functional fitness at the Tribe in San Antonio. Also a coach for Morgan's Wonderland for their health and wellness program. You're a seminar staff for Adaptive Training Academy. Also, just an overall head staff. We do lots of things with the Wounded Warrior Project. We do camps. We do camps and clinics with the Veterans Administration. But what else am I missing besides father and about to be a soon to a second father coming up very soon? Is there anything else I'm missing that you'd like to share with people?
Marine Corps powerlifting coach.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
Yeah, so I coach the Marine Corps Wounded Warrior Battalion powerlifting team. So a lot of those big competitions of, Warrior Games, Marine Corps, Air Force trials, training camps, stuff like that. So I coach that. But I'm not good at introductions. So if somebody asks, like, what do you do? I'm like, I'm a coach, and athlete of sorts. And that's pretty much where I leave it. But yeah, I mean, it's a multitude of things that have grown over the years. It started off just being a personal trainer at my local gym. And I really found a passion for, being an adaptive coach and the challenges that came with that. And I think that just grew exponentially, starting off with ATA. And, my story. Everyone else doesn't know my story, but I really got into adaptive training at the adaptive training seminar. And that's kind of where my journey started, is going through that seminar and kind of like that eye-opening experience of, wow, there's this whole fitness realm out here that is dedicated and takes pride in providing, knowledge and experience on working with all varying types of disabilities, not just mine. If someone came up who wanted to work out that was like me, I got that. But someone else who has like spina bifida, I'm like, what do I do with you? And that's where my story started. Is I had a client with spina bifida came up to me and was like, I want to train with you. And I was like, I want to train with you too, but I don't know how to do that safely. So I'm gonna go do some research and found ATA, and that's kind of where my journey started. From that, it's gone off the rails a little bit. I'm pulled in so many wonderful directions, and I love every second of it.
Yeah, for sure. I want to come back to that seminar we first met, but going back to powerlifting as a powerlifting coach, for people who don't know, what's involved in the sport of para powerlifting?
Yeah, so para powerlifting, it is a wonderful sport. It is very focused in on the bench press. It is done on a para bench press, so it is a specialized bench created to where your full body is flat. So it's very wide base and then, headrest, but your whole body is laying flat on the bench. Your feet aren't touching the ground. Provides kind of a safe and equal playing field for a lot of varying disabilities. As long as you have good upper extremity use of both your arms, you can compete in para powerlifting and utilize that bench press.
And as a coach, you're coaching the Marine Corps, you're coaching active duty Marines.
I'm coaching both active duty and retired. We're in a fortunate time right now to where we don't have as many Marines in the Wounded Warrior Battalion. We, several years ago, there was plenty of, active Wounded Warrior Marines able to compete in those spots were reserved for them. And now that those injuries have gone down, we are pulling both from active and retired. So yes, the majority, I will say, are active. Those slots are reserved for active duty injured service members first. And then if there's spots to be filled, we'll call in and let, retired service members come in and compete.
And they compete against the other service branches. Is that correct?
That is correct. Yeah.
And
So
then
every branch is out there. It's a great time. Warrior Games is a blast every year. I love it. But yeah, every branch.
And do some of those athletes go on to compete potentially other competitions in the U.S. or in the world, or potentially in the Paralympics as well?
Yes, absolutely. I think it is a great segue into the different options for you out there across the world. A lot of the coaches that we utilize for Warrior Games and trials are Paralympic coaches, and they have been for several years. Mary Hodge has been on the U.S. Para team as the head coach for probably as long as I've been alive, and she runs every competition we do, and a lot of the other sports, cycling, track and field, shooting, a lot of them come from a Paralympic background or were a lot of the coaches were prior service members who competed in the sports. A lot of different opportunities and resources to reach out to if you ever want to compete in the sports.
I would love to dive deeper into how you program for powerlifting and what that training's like, even going through the exact meet and what that's like as well. I've had some experience myself doing that through the National Veteran Wheelchair Games. It's a great event. It's so much energy. I love it. But maybe another time we'll go into that. But I wanted to get into what you're doing coming up. So coming up soon, you are attempting to break a world record. Can you tell us about that world record? Maybe just explain it to us, and then we've got to ask the question that I'm sure everybody asks, which is why.
Yes, I get that question pretty regularly. The world record I'm going after is the most miles covered in a wheelchair in 24 hours. So the only limiting factor on what I do in that 24 hours is the clock. So 3, 2, 1, go. I'm on a 24-hour clock. What I do is up to me. The current Guinness World Record is 113.4 miles. And it really is up to however far and how much I'm able to work within 24 hours. So I can rest. That's a big question of like, are you just going to go constant for 24 hours? I'm like, no, physically, probably not smart. So I've been training for this it'll be a full year this month. The end of this month, I really started training for this. So it'll be a full year at the end of October. just for this record. And we're being smart about it. I've been working with a coach, Omni Athlete Training Systems, George, and he has a lot of experience in backyard ultras. If you're unfamiliar with backyard ultras, they are like you do 4-mile loop in an hour and then you get to rest the remainder of the hour. And that's kind of the approach we're taking on this world record is I have a mile goal every hour. I'll get rest a little bit every hour, fuel, what have you, use the restroom, and then go back out again. So lots of planning, lots of training, but that is the world record, 24 hours of just pushing.
What's the mile goal? What's your pace for that mile?
My mile goal minimum for me is 6 miles per hour. And the pace is not 10 minutes per mile because that would give me no rest. So I am looking at holding below an 8:30 minute pace per mile. That'll give me 10-minute rest every hour. And then I use as little of that rest as possible to where I'm ready to go out again. And the goal is to bank my rest for when I really need it. First few hours will probably be like 1 to 2 minute turnaround, use the restroom, grab stuff, go. And then, I'll have some extra rest when I need it later on. So in total, my minimum goal is 144 miles. My goal that I really want to hit is 150 plus. I would love to hit 150 plus. I think that would be pretty cool. And the longest test I did was 12 hours and I hit 75 and that broke me. So doing that for another 12 hours will be challenging to say the least.
But there were some unique circumstances in that test push you did. Thankfully, I was there for parts of it. You did that in San Diego around the bay, and it was on just a public sidewalk. So, and I mean, you can tell the specifics, but that sidewalk was a little bit banked in some areas, so it was tilted, which made you have to push on one arm a little bit more than you should have. Plus the sand. There was just sand all over you, which could not be comfortable. So,
yes,
I'm guessing, all other conditions, made better for you. I'm not saying 75 miles is going to be easy whatsoever, but with no sand and without having to push on the side of a hill one way, watch out for pedestrians, dogs, random people, drunk people at the middle of the night wandering around the bay. It's probably going to be a little bit easier for you. And then a little bit more training, obviously. And I think you've learned a lot about nutrition too. Can you talk about your nutrition? Because you have a coach, as you mentioned. And I think what you've told me before is, nutrition was a big part to why that coach is so helpful for you. Can you talk about what you're taking, ingesting before, during, and what you're thinking about for nutrition?
Yeah, all carbs, just constant carbs. So I get to eat whatever I want and it's great. But there is a science to it, right? So when I was training and competing in CrossFit, I had a very structured diet. It was like high in protein. Yes, I had carbs and healthy amount of fats. And once I transitioned into training for this world record, I kept the same diet thinking like, okay, I'm good here. Like keep the protein high, get some carbs in for energy, but I didn't change a lot. And as I increased volume in my training of just long distance pushing, I realized I felt like crap. I just didn't have the energy. I wasn't drinking enough water. I didn't get enough electrolytes. And I was like, I need help. And that's when I reached out to George at Omni and I was like, hey, I need some nutrition advice, what I need to be doing. He's like, how many carbs you taking in per hour while you're training? I was like, wait, I'm supposed to eat while I'm training? And he's just like, let's sit down and talk. And so, yeah, nutrition wise has changed a lot. And it really is. And it's different. He's only trained like professional runners. He's never trained someone who's missing a large portion of their body. So my nutrition is very tailored to me and my needs because I'm missing like a third of my body. I don't need the lower use of I don't need food to fuel my entire body. It's only to a certain extent. And we figured out a good amount that works for me, which training wise, I'm consuming at minimum about 80 grams of carbs per hour. I'm burning close to 1,000 calories per hour when I'm pushing at my world record pace. Probably more like 800 calories per hour, not so much 1,000. But it's Texas and it's hot and I sweat a lot right now. So that's certain days depending on, the temperature and having good metrics and tracking and realizing like, okay, I'm burning more because it's hot out and I'm sweating like crazy. And all these things took time to understand and better understand my body. And I also pick up cues of like, okay, my heart rate's getting a little more elevated right now than it should be. I need to hydrate more and just experience trial and error. Lots of trial and error has led me to understanding my body better and what it needs under extreme circumstance.
Yeah. When I was there watching you do that 75-mile trial, was talking with your coach, and you guys had a delicate balance of drinking water, nicotine, caffeine, and carbs. It was like there was the four of those things that was keeping you going, right? And how much, do you remember how much caffeine you were taking, and then how were you getting that in during that push?
So caffeine was either energy drinks or Carb Fuels is a great company that makes carb gels. They also sell a carb gel that comes with about 100 milligrams of caffeine. So every other hour, I was taking a caffeinated Carb Fuel. It's just a quick gel and then it's done. And those have, I want to say 50 grams of carbs in it and 100 milligrams of caffeine, the caffeinated ones. So I would say I averaged 100 milligrams an hour of caffeine. And I think at that 12-hour, I was averaging at least 50 grams of carbs per hour, which was a little low, we found out, going into like hour 8, and we needed to up it. But the hardest part is just you reach a point where you just don't want to eat anymore. And you're working out constantly, and you got to balance, like, I have to eat or I'm going to pass out. It's an interesting sport. Endurance world has opened my eyes to what the body's capable of and how to properly fuel it.
What did you, before you decided you wanted to do this, which you're still not getting out of this, answering the question of why? We'll have a come back to that. But before you decided you wanted to do this, what had you done any longer endurance? Had you done anything in your chair before?
I think I did a 5K. Actually, no. So I've pushed, like, I think the furthest I pushed before training for this was about 5 miles. I still, CrossFit is, training against or training all modalities and different areas of fitness. So cardio is one of those pieces, and it's one I've always sucked at. And I think why I chose this record is because I did suck at it, and I knew it would be challenging. And I knew it was something I was capable of doing, but I knew if I had to go do it on the day a year ago, it would not be possible. And that kind of inspired me to get after it and change my focus to something that was challenging. I think I reached a point in my CrossFit competitive career where I was plateauing, and there was areas of my fitness that needed more work, and I always love a challenge. And I found this record a few years ago, and I was just like, that would be really cool. But I was so competitive in the CrossFit space, it doesn't mesh well with competing and lifting heavy barbells overhead. So I decided to make the switch, and I devoted an entire year of focusing on long distance endurance, and it's been fun. I've been enjoying it. These last few weeks, not so much, because it's like 100 plus miles a week on training. But yeah, why I'm doing it, there's a multitude of different reasons. One, for the challenge, personal. I think there is a large part of the community I have a lot of pride with and want to support is the veteran community. And I think there is a drastic epidemic happening in the veteran community where it's just like you go through hard things, but you don't talk about it and you don't really open up about your experiences or challenges. And I think a lot of people feel alone or isolated. And I'm basing that off of myself because for several years I was alone and I isolated myself. And and there was a point where I didn't leave my house for a full year. My transmission on my car died because I just didn't leave. I get groceries delivered to my house. I just completely isolated and separated myself from everything and everyone. And this experience and this opportunity is the culmination of several years of hard work on myself, of people believing in me, of people wanting to support me. I wouldn't be here without key people in my life over the years. And I want to celebrate that with something that's a little crazy. And I want to show other veterans and other people out there that It's to go after something that seems a little crazy. It doesn't have to be 24 hours constantly pushing in a wheelchair or Guinness World Records or competing at CrossFit Games. It can be something small, but it could be huge for you. And I want to help inspire and encourage other people to do that. So that's a long why, but
Hey, that's meaningful for sure. I know that's going to resonate with a lot of people, veterans and non-veterans alike, people struggling with things and not able to express them, not knowing if they can express them or how they'll be received by friends, family, other people. So I really appreciate what you're doing, and I thanks for sharing that message and your story for sure. I think people, anybody listening to this or watching this, they're welcome to join you either in person or they're welcome to watch and support you. You're also doing this in support of ValorFit. So you're raising funds for ValorFit. Can you tell me about that and how people can help you support ValorFit?
yes. So this event is sponsored by USAA. Thankful for them in covering some of the expenses. And because of that, we're able to make this into a charitable event. So this is an event to raise money to support veterans and an organization that I think resonates with it benefits veterans in a way that has benefited me is getting myself into a fitness community that supports me really helped turn my life around. And that's what ValorFit provides for other veterans. So they can, help cover membership costs of getting in a CrossFit gym or a fitness space. They have resources of, they'll help you find local resources to help support you and whatever your needs are. Troy is an amazing human with a huge passion for the veteran community. And just over several talks with him and what he's done and what he's about, I just knew that's where I wanted to put donations towards. And that is a goal of all this. And I think we're close to $5,000 raised so far. I'm really happy about that and, hoping to see it go up leading up to the world record.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, I know one of the things they do is they help get they help get veterans into gyms, get them gym memberships, and get them into a good gym community, which is it's so needed when veterans leave their community of whatever service branch they're in, and then be able to find a good gym community as well.
Yeah.
You're good friends with Matt Johnson, who's currently running across Texas and raising funds for the same organization, ValorFit. How did you guys get linked up? I guess tell everybody who Matt. How do you describe Matt? He's a full enigma for sure. But how did you describe Matt, and then how did you guys get linked up? And I know you guys did a little journey together as well. Can you tell us about that?
Yeah. So I bumped into Matt Johnson at a high rocks competition in Houston. I'd never done one. I signed up for it on a whim. I was like, yeah, I'll give it a shot. And I saw him at the high rocks. I was like, that guy looks super familiar because I had seen a reel of him on Instagram somewhere. And I saw him running with Troy at Valor Fit at High Rocks. And I knew who Troy was, but I was like, I can't picture. I was like, I know this guy, but I don't know where from. So ran the High Rocks. I see Troy running High Rocks with Matt, and I was like, "You got this, man!" Like cheering him on. Afterwards, I congratulated him on finishing and stuff. Completely ignored Matt. Didn't talk to him at all. Just because I couldn't figure out who he was. I wouldn't say ignored him, but I mean, I was ready to get out of there. I was tired. He the High Rocks video got posted like immediately of me doing burpees out of my wheelchair before I even finished the race. It was posted on the High Rocks page, and he commented on it, and I was like, "You're the guy that does the crazy endurance stuff, running around." He did his previous run across Texas, 750 miles from east to west or west to east, one of those, 750 miles, and I saw a reel of him like in a van just chugging peanut butter like crying. He's saying, I don't want to be here anymore. And I was like, that's where I've seen you from. And we just kind of started talking from that. We both had a passion, both veterans, both have a passion for helping the veteran community. And he lives super close to me. He's out in Austin. I'm out in San Antonio. And we linked up on stuff. So he started a fundraiser for ValorFit for his run across Texas #2. Yeah, right now he's running 1,000 miles from north to south across Texas, raising money for ValorFit. And I went with him to Tampa to launch his fundraiser for the run. We on 4th of July we did a 30-mile to help kick off that fundraiser in Tampa. You know, we've been talking. We talk regularly all the time, checking in on each other, helping each other out however we can. You know, trying to make an impact. So great dude, complete madman. But you know, if anything, I've learned to surround myself with people as crazy or crazier than me, and it's been pretty beneficial. So really great all around human.
Yeah, for sure. It's if anybody doesn't know, it's worth following on Instagram just for the stories, just to see what he's doing. And especially right now as he's crossing Texas, you know, it's 1,000 miles is a long way to go.
It is. I plan on joining him in a few days. So he'll be running straight through San Antonio. So I'll probably be joining him this weekend, I think. Yeah.
That's awesome. I want to understand so that people can understand from you and learn from you, from somebody that hasn't done long endurance like this before. What's your training like? Are you going out and pushing every day? Are you pushing, when we say pushing, what we mean is pushing your wheelchair. So pushing your wheelchair, are you on the road? Are you on a treadmill of sorts? How much strength training are you doing? How many days per week? What's it look like? I know right now is different, but how is the buildup and how did that progress?
Sure. It started off slow, and it started off with just me tinkering around. There was no real solid plan. I just knew I was like, I need to get time in my chair pushing for miles. So it really started off for me doing half and half. I was doing functional fitness training in the gym like 3 days a week, and then I was pushing in my chair 3 days a week. When I started, I would say I would max out 3 to 5 miles. Like I wasn't doing longer than that. My mile times were super slow. I wasn't trying to go for speed. I was really just trying to build up resilience and long distance pushing and maintaining a steady pace. So I focused mainly on my pace. And then when I felt like I was done, I would go back home. As far as route, I am a dad and I don't like to go super far from my house and be away for super long periods. So I literally go down the street and I roll down a sidewalk for hours and then I come back inside. I think there's better ways to do it as opposed to that. You can find some good, running paths and stuff you could go down, but I just go on a sidewalk. I don't go on the road. I don't trust people. Cars. I've been buzzed too many times. So a lot of learning has occurred over the almost year, say pretty much a year and like 2 weeks of training for this. Don't push on the road. No one pays attention. They're on their phones half the time. Find a sidewalk or a secluded running path and go push on that. I use a sidewalk. It sucks because it's a little bumpier, but it's safe. Be safe over everything. And as far as the build up to where I'm at now, it just progressed. So, like I said, I did half and half functional movement training, lifting weights, stuff like that, and then half cardio, and then a day of rest. I've always been a 6 on, 1 off kind of guy as far as training, and that's just years of training. I wasn't always that way. I'd work out and then want a rest day. I'd work out like 3 or 4 days a week, but now I'm 6 days on, 1 day off kind of guy. And then I started focusing more on endurance and pushing the distances longer. Or certain days I would focus on increasing my pace for a mile and then taking a mile easy and alternating. I would focus on hill work, like going up and down. Uphill, super challenging. Downhill, you do nothing. But that uphill challenge is very beneficial for, building strength for long distance pushing. So I would do hill work, I would do sprints. And then as, my cardio improved, I focused on zone training of, okay, what is the max training heart rate? I forget the official term for my age. So it's like 180 minus your age is kind of your target heart rate for improved cardio performance per my coach. So if I'm wrong, blame him. So I would try and get in that 140-ish range of like, I would go push for 8 miles at that heart rate and try and maintain that and then call it a day. I did that for several months. And now it's just long distance. And we're at the point now to where I know what I'm doing well enough, and George knows that, to where he'll just give me a mile goal and I hit it. And over the past few weeks, it's been increasing and it's been challenging. So it started off 90 miles, 100 miles a week. Now the last heavy week I completed was 120. And my final peak week starting tomorrow is 130 miles in a week, which when I think about it, I'm trying to hit more than that in a day. So it doesn't sound too bad, but it is challenging, and it's hot. I live in Texas. So, but hopefully it'll be cooler next month.
Yeah. What do you, for this week or that 120-mile week, that's over how many days? 5 days, 6 days split up?
So usually I try and knock it out in 6 days, so I have that day of rest. So 6 days. It's averaging over 20 a day for a week,
And
around less.
are you going at your 840 or 830 kind of world record pace?
I'm trying to maintain that as much as possible throughout all my training these past 2 months, is just maintain world record pace. These last 2 weeks is not so important. It's mainly time in chair, or for runners, they say time on feet. For me, I don't have those. So it's time on hands, is really just getting used to being in your chair for an extended period of time. So my pace is not so important. It's more time in the chair, and hitting the miles. Pace is kind of out the window. I know I can maintain that pace. It's mainly just get comfortable in a chair for 24 hours. He's like, take as long as you need. But yeah, that's the goal right now.
So what's the discomfort? What comes in for discomfort for somebody, for you being in the chair that long?
That's a great question. It's not what most people think. So once everyone just initially is like your chest, triceps, shoulders, all shot. Like, yes, those after a certain amount of time, those do get tired. The first thing that goes for me is my lower back, from hinging so much. So when I push, I lean forward and then I sit back up, right? It helps build momentum and creates a nice rhythm while I'm pushing. But as a seated athlete, that's a hard muscle group to train and strengthen. And I'm a with hip function athlete. So even without hip function, it would be even more challenging, right? But my lower back is what gives me the most issues. My forearms and my grip, gripping the wheel over several hours, I start to get like my knuckles will turn like red. My forearms will just blow up a lot just from grip fatigue. My neck starts to bother me as well, just that hinging, throwing the head back over several hours. But yeah, usually the last thing that starts bothering me is my shoulders, triceps, and chest, which is surprising. I think that's just years of training CrossFit that has paid off in the long run. And then other things I realized I need to work on.
Can you talk about your equipment, the chair you're going to be using? I know you wear gloves, anything else you use for that, but can you talk about the chair? Because I think people that would imagine you doing this world record, I mean, me right away in my head, I think, oh, he's in one of these, super nice chairs with the racing chair that's like they're bent over. It's all this like carbon fiber wrapping around you or something like that. But you're not doing that.
No, I'm not. So if I saw correctly, the guy who did the previous record did it in a racing wheelchair, which is the three-wheeled wheelchair where one's up front and you are super hunched over. I wanted to do this in an everyday chair. I think this record being set in an everyday chair leaves it open to be broken in the future, which I'm not upset about. I want to make it a record accessible for without having to drop 20 plus grand on a racing wheelchair, and show that it's possible. And I also want this to be kind of an example of you don't need all this crazy equipment to get out there and challenge yourself. Like, yes, you may be in a wheelchair. You can do so much in a wheelchair. It's just like people who just enjoy running. They want to go out the door and run. You can do the same thing in a wheelchair. Yes, there are improvements you can make to a wheelchair. Have a nice fancy wheelchair, all these different things that I've acquired over the years of just getting competitive in the sport, but the entry level of getting into long distance pushing a wheelchair is you have a wheelchair and you just go. And I think that's what makes this really cool. And I know it resonates with a lot of people because I get messages constantly of like, what do you use? What do you do? How do you train? How did you start? And I was like, I just went out my front door and I pushed until I got tired. And then I went home and that was it. So circling back to your question, equipment. Performax is a company that makes my wheelchair. Amazing company. They make custom wheelchairs, have several different models. They're top of the line company. They make, basketball wheelchairs, rugby wheelchairs, CrossFit, functional fitness wheelchairs. The one I'm using personally is the one I use to compete in CrossFit, which is the X-Fit. Great wheelchair, very resilient, but it is an everyday chair. So it's not built for anything crazy. It was more geared towards being able to lift heavy weights in the wheelchair. But as far as other things that I've started to use in training, gloves, very important. You will still tear up your hands. Like so many dudes are like, why do you use gloves? Just do it without gloves. Like, dude, I push for 20 plus miles in my chair and I still tear my hands with gloves. Like I have no desire to lose skin on my hand every time I train. So use good gloves. Mechanics Precision Pro is my go-to. I also just released a video with all the equipment that I'm going to be utilizing on my chair. So you can check out my Instagram and look at that. I set up hydration on the back of my chair. I use a Garmin to track my distance. There are certain Garmins that also track pushes in a wheelchair, which is super cool. There's 2 models that do it. I did not know this before spending a bunch of money on my Garmin. So if you do decide to start tracking your miles, buy the one that tracks pushes. So there's a lot of the fitness space is growing, and companies are seeing there are adaptive athletes out there that want to challenge themselves, and it's cool to see companies like Garmin adding that feature of track pushes in a wheelchair. It wasn't always that way, and it is now, and I think this is a great opportunity to help encourage other people to get after it.
Yeah, that's amazing. It's incredible that you're doing that. And when you mentioned that this is your everyday chair, you mean that this is what you're going to attempt this world record in for 150 miles that you want to get is the chair that you use every day. It's the chair you get around in. It's the chair you train in. It's just that's why it's called an everyday chair. It's just what you're using in every day. It's nothing really modified or different. It's just the chair you use. Like you said, just out the door. And
Yeah. The only thing that's modified about my chair than everyone else's is I took the footrest off because I don't need it and it's less weight. That's the only thing modified in my chair is it's missing a piece that most people need. But yeah, it's an everyday chair. I will say, like I said, it is a custom chair, so it's built to me. So if you get a chair straight from insurance or a hospital, like it's not going to be as built or tailored to you as it should be for this kind of sport. You can get into this sport in a kind of crummy insurance, like low build chair. Like I had that and I still went out and pushed. And then I realized I need something tailor fitted to me. So changes in my chair compared to your every like insurance given chair is it's super close to my hips. Like I have no space between the side guards of my chair and my hips. Like it's just squished in. So when I push, my wheels are directly underneath me, as opposed to when I was pushing in a super wide chair, I had to be kind of like out here, right? You want to be right here. So sorry, I can't show you a full picture, but you get the idea of, understanding how important it is to have a chair that's built for you in your training. And that's what Performax does. And they're really good at it.
What you've gone, do you know how many miles you've done total in the training in the last year? I mean, that would be really interesting to figure out. No, you don't have to do it right now, but
I mean, I can pull it up right now on my profile. Well, I got a Garmin about halfway through the year. I didn't always, so my first like 6 months of training, I didn't track. And once I started increasing miles, I was like, I need to track. So for the last 6 months, let me see. I don't know where it's at in here. I would say for the past few months, I've been averaging probably around 90 miles per week. These last few weeks, obviously, a lot more. But for the past few months, I'd say I'd average anywhere between 80 and 90 miles a week for 4 months.
yeah.
So I don't know the
So it's
math
got to
on
be at
that.
least 1,000 miles over the
So
last.
definitely several thousand miles. Another factor in San Diego, my tires were like bald and my casters were down to like nothing. So I am excited to see what is possible with a brand new set of tires and casters.
Yeah. For people who don't know, what are the casters on your wheelchair?
So casters are the small wheels in the front of the wheelchair that assist with turning and what have you. And then the main wheel is the back wheel, your pushing rim. So my casters from just doing so many miles were just worn down to like no rubber to where it wasn't touching the ground on one side and was just wobbling in the air. And then when it would hit, it would slow me down. So,
It's like having a bad shopping cart.
yeah, it's just like, yeah, you go running with that squeaky wheel shopping cart. That's essentially what I was doing for 12 hours. Yeah.
Is that the only thing? I mean, on your chair, all these miles from Performax, is that the only thing that's really been needed to replace? Was just the caster wheels, getting some new tires, and otherwise that chair is held up?
Yes. So new tires and new casters are the only thing, and that did not get replaced until recently. And I competed in CrossFit in that chair. I did thousands of miles on those wheels. Granted, I should have replaced those tires and casters probably months before I did, but yes, it lasts quite a long time, and the frame held up fine. Everything was great. It's just, that's your constant contact to the ground. It's going to wear down over time, just like a pair of shoes for you weird people with feet.
Yeah. Let's talk to me about the actual event. When is it happening? Where is it happening? How's it going down so people understand?
So the world record is happening in less than a month now. Crazy. November 10th at noon is when it's going to start. Marine Corps birthday, by the way. Their 50th Marine Corps birthday is the start of the attempt at noon. And we'll go till November 11th at noon, Veterans Day, which is super cool. So those are the dates. The location, it's going to be in San Antonio, Texas, and it'll be on a Army base. The only reason it's on Army base is because there's no Marine Corps base out here. No, the Army base is Martindale Army Airfield. Really cool guys. It was originally a World War II airstrip, like auxiliary airfield for Randolph. And then over time, that airfield became unusable for planes. And now it's used as a Black Hawk search and rescue / training base. And they're giving me full access for 24 hours to push up and down a airstrip and taxiway, and it's really cool. So to have that support, to be able to do it on a military base, raising money for veterans on Veterans Day, really cool experience. So yeah, those are all the details. That's when it's going down, and people can roll with me. I have, a lot of support, people interested of coming out, both military people I've competed with at CrossFit, people I've trained. So I think it'll be a really cool event. And yeah, we'll see how it goes.
Yeah. For people that are watching this and want to know more about it, we'll put a full info page on ATA's website, and so that you can get information, know how to come support Mike, especially because it's going to be on an Army base, so you can't just show up out of the blue and be like, "Hey, I'm here." It is still an active Army base, so you're going to have to come on and get credentials and come support. But it would be great to have people come and run alongside you. Just be there to support. We also know Mike needs help with scorekeeping, record keeping for this thing too. So there's lots of ways that you can support. You can also donate through Mike to ValorFit for the donations as well. But we'll put all that information on a webpage so that everybody can see, and make sure you can get your plans and find ways to support Mike and see what he's doing. Are you going, how long of a track is this? Are you going, how long is the airstrip? Is it straight?
It is not straight. So that the airstrip is straight, but then I go to the taxiway. So the airstrip goes straight down, and then the taxiway kind of goes off to the side a little bit. So it's kind of like I'm making like a V, and it'll be down and back a full loop. I want to say it's about 1.3 miles. So I just got to do it a little over 100 times.
Yeah. And I know people, if they're listening, they're probably thinking, how could you game this system to make it best? And I know we've talked about this ad nauseum, going through like what you could do. But Guinness, the world record holders, they gave you a whole list of what you could and couldn't do. One of those things, right? It was had to be in public, so you couldn't do it like in a private area. At one point in time, I think you were talking with USAA, and they have some secret layer underground thing where it's like really long tunnels, linoleum polished floors. I mean, you would have just no wind resistance, outside wind resistance, no weather to deal with. That would have been great, but it needs to be on public property. So you will be outside. We'll be outside dealing with the elements, and it needs to be some type of loop or track that you can keep going on. It can't be just one straight distance, right? Was there anything else from Guinness that was a stipulation?
The gradient of it has to be flat. So if it exceeds a certain gradient, it will not be considered this record. So it's,
you can't just go downhill for 130 miles.
What's that?
You can't just get to the top of a mountain and go downhill for 130.
Right. And everyone's like, why don't you just go downhill for like 100 miles? And I was like, that would be nice. But
what about having like wind blockers and pacers?
I can't have people, I can't draft off people. I can't have anyone in front of me for the entire attempt. And obviously, for obvious reasons, no one can push behind me and push my chair while I'm going. So yeah, it has to be pretty much perfectly flat. So the gradient is 1 meter of elevation is allowed or less per 1,000 meters. So it's got to be flat and has to be in some way, shape, or form a loop. And I have to get a surveyor out to prove that it is so, and not just video. And there's a lot of stipulations. There's a lot that goes into officiating a world record, and I'm learning that, and we're going to make sure that we do everything we need to ensure it gets officiated. So
yeah. Okay. So after you accomplish this, then what? What's next?
I have crazy plans. It's a crazy plan, but I don't know if it's going to work out yet because I need a special wheelchair to do it. I can't say yet, but it makes the world record not seem so bad if it happens. So it's, yeah, man. Yeah, I'm a glutton for punishment. Let's just say that.
I mean, for you, I'm thinking, is he going to go across Antarctica or across some desert or up some mountain, or it's got to be multiple days, something? We'd love to see that.
Yeah, I mean, if those are all still on the list. That's all possibility in the future. You never know. There's some mountains I could climb, but yeah, I just, as long as I'm physically capable of challenging myself and doing it in a comfortable and safe way. I'm a dad. I want to make sure I make it home to my family. I want to keep pushing the limits and hopefully encourage other people to do the same. I got started in this pretty late in my life. Like, I didn't start really pushing myself till I was in my 30s. And, I think I have a few good years left of just really testing the limits. I want to see and hope to inspire, younger generations to look at this and be like, there's that crazy guy that went and did a world record for 24 hours. Maybe I could do that too. And if you decide to beat it, let me know. I'll coach you. So I think that's what helps drives me in doing all this. And
Yeah. Well, I can say from everybody at ATA, the adaptive community at large, all the veterans, we appreciate you. Thank you for everything you do, sharing your knowledge and education and everything, and being an inspiration to all of us. So thank you so much. Looking forward to seeing you break that world record and then whatever other crazy stuff you're coming up with afterwards. So thanks so much. Yeah, I appreciate it.
Of course, man. Always great talking to you.
Yeah. All right. Thanks, Mike.